Today I just want to talk about mom stuff. So if you're not a mom, you can watch and learn something for a friend who's a mom, or maybe you'll be a mom someday and it's interesting to you. If you're a dad, this might give you a little bit of insight into how the mom in your life looks at things. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So, I'm Sara, I'm Matt's wife. I'm one of the mentors in the group, and I have a doctorate in occupational therapy. I was on the fast track for a career. By the time I was about 15, I knew that I wanted to be an occupational therapist, and I was accepted into a program when I was 16. I think I was a senior. Could have been 17. I might have been a junior. I might have been 16 when I was selected to be in a program that allowed me automatic admission into occupational therapy school after 2 years. So basically, I started college when I was 17, and then I started college when I was 17, and I was on this track. They called it the High Plains Health Opportunities Program. So I went through the application process basically for occupational therapy school when I was still in high school. And it was a program that allowed me to go to a smaller Division II state school for 2 years and then get automatically accepted into, come here, Pasha, come here, come say hi. So everybody knows who's whining. It's not me. It's not me who's whining, it's this one, right here. Yeah, she knows it's about time for the kids to get home from school. Anyway, so as long as I maintained my GPA and I, fulfilled a couple other requirements, then I was given acceptance to occupational therapy school. So I actually started occupational therapy school, which is a doctoral level program, as a 19-year-old. And I graduated when I was 23. Is that right? Yeah, I guess I graduated when I was 23. Matt and I got married that same year. So, and that is really not what I thought would happen with my life. I mean, we met, we fell in love, and that was the way my world went, and I love it. But we got married when I was 23, and by the time I was 25, I was pregnant. And so I became a mom when I was 25, and we had just started a new business in like the year and a half prior to that. And we were running around with our heads cut off. And after we had our first baby, I stayed at home with her because that was originally what I wanted to do. But we also had a lot of, being in a more rural area, it is, it's an area that's harder to staff in the therapy world. And so right after I had my second son at the age of 25, we ended up losing our staffing, and I went back to work. So I had this drive to be a really amazing occupational therapist, but I also had this drive to be a really amazing stay-at-home mom. So I was kind of torn between these two worlds. And being the problem solver that I am, being an occupational therapist by training, that's our job, is to solve problems, to step into someone's world and solve problems for them and help them come up with solutions. That's what I did as a working mom. So I have some tips and tricks as a working mom. I can relate to both the working mom and the stay-at-home mom, because I stayed at home with my daughter for 2 years, and now again I'm staying home with my kids even though they're in school. I work from home, and I'm able to be around when they're home and do things for them at school and so forth. But as a working mom, I have a lot of tips and tricks for other working moms. So I think I come from a role of a working mom as a professional with a lot of responsibilities and a lot of stresses. And I feel like I can kind of speak to those moms that feel that way. And I don't know that there are a lot of parents who don't feel that way as a working mom. I feel like the working mom is someone to be admired greatly, and someone who probably has a lot of struggles and battles that they would never tell you about, because I feel like moms in general, we deal with a lot of guilt with everything from what you may be not doing as a mom, to the things you've done that you think are screwing your kids up, or what you're not able to do. All the decisions we make, I feel like as moms, we second guess those decisions all the time. We're always worried about what we should be doing, what we haven't done, what did we do that messed our kids up. There's a lot of guilt and a lot of pressure and expectations. I mean, starting from, did you follow through with your birth plan, to are you able to breastfeed your child versus bottle feed, all the way to should I work, should I stay home, what if I want to stay home but I have to work. There's a lot of mom guilt, and the truth of the matter is sometimes we're in a position where we just have to work, whether it's, it's a financial reason, or it could even be an emotional reason. I mean, I know some moms who say, I'd love to be that mom that stays home with my kids, but I'm not built for that. I am not built to be at home with toddlers all day. I need adult interaction, and I need to have a purpose in my life outside of just raising babies. So there are a lot of reasons why you might work or why you might stay home. And I'm not really getting into that today, but what I want to just tell you is I've been in both roles, and today I want to talk about, as a working mom, some of the things that I learned that helped me with my family. And I think a big one is food. We are we're under, there's a barrage of things about how you should eat, and what's good for you and what's healthy and what's not. And I just want to talk a little bit about feeding your family and things that help me as a working mom with no spare time. We always kept breakfast super simple. As soon as my kids were old enough, I taught them how to make their own bagels for breakfast. Bagels and cream cheese was a big one. My daughter loves cereal. I'm not saying I did it right. I'm not saying this is the healthiest way, but I do feel like it teaches your kids to be independent, and it teaches them balance, to be able to have their own cereal in the morning, or toast and yogurt. So as soon as my kids were old enough, I really did emphasize making their own breakfast. Before that, they usually would eat breakfast at daycare, so breakfast wasn't a big issue. Lunch, again, when I was working, they were either at school or daycare, so lunch wasn't a big focus. But the dinner meal was always really stressful, right? Because you're coming home from work, you're really tired, and that's usually the fussiest hour of all for kids. Is that 5 to 7 hour is just, or 2 hours is really tough, especially when they're toddlers. So these are some tips that I learned. So meal plan and grocery shop on Sundays, and plan to have a crock pot meal on Mondays. And then what you do is you prepare that crock pot meal on Sunday, have it ready in the fridge, and then on Monday morning before you go to work, you plug the crock pot in and start that cooking. So maybe a roast, maybe a soup of some sort. There's this recipe that we have, it's full of carbs, but really yummy. The kids loved it. Was crock pot chicken and noodles. So you basically just put frozen chicken breasts in the crock pot with chicken broth, butter, salt. You can put some veggies in too if you want, bay leaf. And then when you come home from work, you throw in some egg noodles and let it finish cooking. And that was a really yummy, comfort food meal. And I would try to always do a crock pot meal on Mondays, because Monday nights are crazy. Seem like they're the hardest night because kids are just getting back into the routine. So that would be something you could plug in on Monday morning, have it ready already on Sunday when you have extra time. Tuesday, I usually did Taco Tuesday, and that's, I think, is why Matt hates tacos now. Because I always did Taco Tuesday. It's so easy, and I always felt like it was super healthy. I would just, do corn tortillas. I would make some rice, brown up some ground beef, and then I would just chop up veggies and have just a taco bar basically, and the kids could put in what they wanted, and that was always good for leftovers on Wednesday. Wednesday night, I called it Waffle Wednesday, and I would make waffles and scrambled eggs, or pancakes and scrambled eggs, but it was breakfast night. Breakfast night is super quick and easy. It doesn't take a lot of planning. I like to cook, and so for me it's really easy to whip up pancakes or waffles. I have a couple quick easy recipes that are not hard. You could even use mixes or something. I know Bob's Red Mill has some good healthier mixes, or Whole Foods has some good healthier mixes for pancakes or waffles, but I would do and with some fruit on Wednesday. Thursday was always kind of the scramble night. Like sometimes I would cook a nice meal. Sometimes it was like, crap, what are we gonna eat? And you try to dig up leftovers. So Thursday was like the meal in question usually, especially if I didn't plan for it. But Thursday was kind of also the meal that if I did plan, that was when I would maybe cook something after dinner, or after work, like, bake some chicken and do some veggies or grill something. And then Fridays was usually pizza night, because Friday was always the night that I stayed late to work. And so when our kids were little, like that was family movie night. And so we'd go get pizza, usually from Little Caesars, and have a movie. And it was really something we all looked forward to. We still do family movie night to this day. We try to make that a regular thing on Fridays. And I feel like that really helped. Then Saturday, I could, either we'd usually eat leftovers for lunch, and then we'd cook something good for dinner, or try to use the grill, or make it, a nicer meal. And then Sunday, I would try to put something, have some either leftovers, or sometimes, a lot of times we would go out to eat after church on Sundays. And then Sunday night was a meal that I prepped for when we did the Sunday meal prepping. I would get something for Sunday, and that was usually a meal that I took more time to cook because I was home and it was relaxing. So those are my tips for cooking with a family, especially when they're little. I'm sure you guys have all heard this, but I don't find myself cooking like to a certain diet with my kids. Obviously, kids are kids, they don't need a diet. I do try not to, have dessert with every meal. That's something that I grew up eating, was dessert with every meal, and I have a massive sweet tooth that I still battle. So we really did, like, if we had dessert after a meal, it was usually fruit. I rarely cook desserts because I just don't want the kids thinking like, oh, I need a dessert after every meal. So a lot of times just fruit was what we would do. If we did dessert, I tried to involve the kids and have them help me cook it. Like if we were going to decorate cookies or mix up cookies or brownies or something, like giving them that sense of purpose and satisfaction that they helped with it is always really great. Okay, and then just when you go shopping, the great rule of thumb, especially if you're not following a certain diet, and as a mom, I think one of the things Matt and I always were proud of is that most of the food we fed the kids was homemade. Except for pizza night. We don't really try to eat out very much. So yeah, we might eat pasta or carbs or even desserts, but usually those were always homemade. Like I don't tend to buy box mixes for cakes or brownies or anything. I usually try to use homemade, which I think, is less preservatives and stuff like that. So anyway, going around the perimeter of the store is a really good way to shop. Like that means you're going to get more fresh vegetables, fresh fruits. You're going to be buying more meats, loading up on dairy, and then, just shop the inside aisles for those things that you need. Like don't walk up and down every aisle and be like, ooh, let's buy these chips and let's buy these cookies and oh, let's buy this prepackaged thing and that prepackaged thing, because almost everything is, has preservatives in it, and it's just more processed food. So try to really stock up on the things around the perimeter of the store because it's less processed. Another mom thing is a little tip that I have is to try to really establish routine for your kids at bedtime. Routine is big overall. We try to keep the same routine every morning before going to school or daycare. You too. But we would try to get in a routine. So like, we try to eat supper around the same time every night. We try to make sure the kids go to bed. Like we were big on, the kids never really went to bed until even last year probably, and they were 10 and 11 last year. That was the first year that they even got to stay up till 9. And most of the time they still don't. We still put our kids to bed at like 8:30. But bedtime was always 8 at the latest. Because sleep is super, super important for kids. And so, we try to keep the same bedtime routine, like, bath and then read a story and go to bed. I think for some people, routine comes really easy, and for other people, routine is very, very hard. So knowing yourself and knowing what works for you, and what comes more naturally for you is important. I'm a person that I love routine, but I also crave adventure and memories with my kids. So I remember there was a season of my life where I was working a lot. And I had the opportunity to make my own schedule, but at the same time, I had to see everybody that I needed to see as the therapist, the only therapist. So what I did was I looked at the schedule really hard and I tried to see when could I not work. And so I ended up taking off one Thursday morning a month. And that was my spend time with the kids morning. Like I held that so precious to me. And we would do things like go to the pumpkin patch, just go to the park, just try to get outside and enjoy life, go to the children's museum. And that was super, super valuable to me. I mean, I look back on pictures of those times. Those were like the memories. Those were the times when I was really struggling to have memories with my kids because I was working so much. Those were the times that I cherish. And so I really encourage you, if you're craving that sense of adventure or that sense of family time and closeness, or you're not getting that, to just try to find even just one time a month for a few hours to do that. I talked to someone who when her kids were little, Sundays was family day. They would work, they would get everything done on the other days, and Sundays was just, okay, go to church, and then do something together as a family every Sunday. The kids got to pick what they did. Maybe they went to a movie, or they went bowling, or they went to the park, or whatever, but Sunday was their family day. But make sure that you're doing that, because when your kids are older and you look back, you want them to remember, like, oh yeah, my family, we always had movie night on Friday night. That was family movie night. That's what my kids are going to remember. They love having breakfast. Like, that's been a staple of their life. I can look back and think I did the best I could. I know that I wasn't perfect. And this is my encouragement for moms, and for moms who experience mom guilt. Trust me, I am a high achiever and I want to be the best at everything. And I know that there are a ton of shortcomings in my life as a parent. I know that I made a lot of mistakes, and my kids are still growing, so there's plenty of room to make more mistakes, trust me. But looking back on those years as a toddler, when they were toddlers and in their earlier school years, I look back and I think I did the very best that I could. And I think, I was always asking the question, where am I messing up? What could I be doing better? And that does put strain on you mentally, but it also shows you, like, you're trying. The good moms are asking, what else can I do? What else can I do? And I just want to acknowledge moms, you guys, as long as you're showing up for your family, you don't have to be perfect, but just know that you're doing the best that you can. And if you're not, like, if you can look at an area and be like, okay, yeah, I know that I'm not giving my all here in this area, I encourage you to dig into that and dive into maybe why you're not. Like, I can look back and I can identify that I was not a very good player with my kids. I would rather, get them busy doing something and then go do something myself. That's kind of like my avoider tendencies a little bit. And I can look back and think that's one area where maybe I didn't do as well as I could. I could have played more, just sat down and played with my kids. But I also think back and I think about maybe my emotional capacity at the time. Maybe I just didn't have it in me. And so I try not to beat myself up over things. And I would encourage you as moms, as long as you're not, hurting your children or neglecting them or traumatizing them in any way. I mean, I'm not talking about extreme cases, but as a mom who's striving to do a good job, just know you can give yourself a break and just know you're doing the best you can, and remind yourself of that so that you're not living with mom guilt every day. If you chose not to breastfeed your child because you couldn't produce enough milk, or they weren't, eating very well, or they just couldn't quite get the hang of it, you did the best you could. If you want to stay home with your kids, but financially you guys have made some bad decisions and you're in credit card debt and you don't want to lose your home and you have to go back to work, you're doing the best you can. And just remind yourself of that. Like, it's easy to look back, or even in the moment think, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Just acknowledge, like, as long as I'm doing the best I can, exactly like what you're saying, Heather, there's always another day. And you don't have to be perfect. You just need to be available for your kids. And if anything, just make sure you're emotionally available for them. And if you're not, go get some help. Like, it's very normal and very good to have a counselor in your life. It's great to have a good friend or a pastor, someone you can talk to help you deal with the pressures of being a working mom. Like, it is hard. It is hard. And I shout out every single mom out there, whether you're working or not, I shout you out, because we have a lot of like mental stuff that we do. Like, nobody else remembers the kids need to go to the dentist. I need to make that appointment. You know, the dog is having an issue. I got to get them into the vet. Oh, we're out of toilet paper. Oh, I need to replace toothbrushes because somebody was just sick. We're out of this. We're out of that. I got to go do this. And then this thing at work. And there's a lot of like it's a lot of mental exercise, right? Like, our minds are constantly running and going. And so just don't be afraid to get some help too if you need it. And don't think of it as like help, like you're being labeled. Just think of it as like your support system. Like, you need your support system. And just always remember, you are doing the best you can. Yes, take one day at a time, Heather. That's really good advice. And, you know, just as I'm mentioning this and I'm talking to you guys about, you know, how you have all these different things in your head, you know, constantly going. One thing that I think, you know, being in this Zavelle group, we're obviously advocating for your health. And I think something else that you can do is take time for your health. Floating is a really, really good way to kind of push everything out and just let your body and your mind rest. And I think as moms, we probably have the hardest time shutting off. So that first 1 or 2 floats, you might not really feel like it's that restful because, you know, it's quiet. So all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I have all this time to think about this and this and this and this and this. And you start just, you know, your mind starts, you know, making all these to-do lists and stuff. But as you begin the practice of floating and you learn how to really let go of all those things that you have in your mind, and you can release some of that for that hour, that's a really good way for moms to reinvigorate themselves. So that's something you might think about. If you haven't tried floating yet, I would suggest it. And hopefully there'll be a Zavelle near you soon so that you can float at one of our locations. I think that's all I have for you right now. I just encourage you to keep up the good work, moms. I'm giving you a pat on the back right now because you're amazing. And I'll probably be here to talk more about mom stuff later on. All right, guys. See you later.